All right, welcome back. So it's time for an exercise. We've learned a lot about forms. Now we're going to apply it. And this exercise is going to work a little different than the last one, where I just asked you to, make this blue, make this large, make this whatever. In this case, I'm going to give you a couple of screenshots. I'll show you also in this video a completed form, 2 different forms, and I'm asking you to create them from scratch, or almost from scratch. So without further ado, here are the 2 forms that I'm asking you to make. This is part 1, sort of a billing address or shipping form, I guess. We've got, an input for a full name, a username with this little icon here, email. It's an email input. Everything has placeholder text. There's this optional text here, which is grayed out. Pay attention to that. We've got address, address to, optional again, special notes, which this time is a text area. Then we have this little note at the bottom, smaller text, grayed text, include any special requests you have for us. Then we have 2 checkboxes, and these are not the default ones. If you notice, if you watch the checkbox video and the custom inputs video, you'll notice the difference. One shipping address is same as billing. The other one is save my info for next time. So that's the first part of the form. Then further down, we have shipping options. So there's a little line here. We didn't technically talk about that. It's a horizontal rule. If you don't add that, it's not the end of the world. And we have 3 radio buttons, and they all are linked together. So you can only select one shipping option at a time. And then there's this button that goes all the way across. So as far as the exact spacing and even like the exact spelling, you don't have to worry too much, but just try and get all of these inputs here. Get this @ sign there, get this text, it says optional, get this text area, this text, these check marks, these radio buttons, and the spacing, again, is not a huge deal. And to help you out, included in the exercise folder, I have a file called part 1, which is the screenshot of part 1. So you don't have to pause this video and watch it. And then there's also part 2 down here, where this one's a little different. I'll show you in just a moment, but I've given you this container, which I already gave a width to, a maximum width. So this is all in a container as well. It's just a normal container. I gave a border to this container and a width. So all you have to do is fill in the middle. Put this text, sign in, put the 2 inputs, 1 and 2, put the checkbox, put the button, slightly different color, put this centered text. Also, this is centered. I didn't mention that. And this link that says register. It doesn't matter where the link goes. So there's a screenshot in here for part 2, which you can take a look at. If you don't want to pause the video and reference it, you can reference the screenshots. So now that brings me to the actual starter code. So let's go take a look at that here. So here's the starter code. It's pretty simple. I've included Bootstrap like always. So all you have to do is fill out the first form in this container where it says write your first form in here. Then for part 2, I've given you a container with a border that's rounded, so you don't have to do any of that. I've set a max width to be 400 pixels. This is not the best way of doing it, but just to be clear, I put it here. So I didn't want to include a separate style sheet. I wanted it to be right here so you can see, you can see what I'm doing. And then in this case, I said write your second form in here and delete this line. So the reason I didn't add this as a comment, I'll show you here. If I didn't add this text, you can't really see this container. If I comment it out, it just collapses and it looks like it's just a line. So I wanted you to be aware that there is a container here and it has a border, and this is where your form will go. But for now, I've left this text in here, and then there's a comment up here for part 1. So you'll type your form for part 1 over here and your form for part 2 over here. Okay, so give it a shot, reference screenshots. Hopefully I covered everything here. I mean, these buttons, the color, they go all the way across. I should point that out. Same thing here, this goes all the way across, so it's not just a plain old button. You might have to refer to the docs or to an early button video to recall how to do that. Don't feel, for me personally, I can never remember the checkboxes and the radio buttons. I always look at the docs, so no shame in having to reference things. Try it, just do your best, blah, blah, blah. I'll see you in the next video with a solution.